Okay, we're live and ready to go. Hey everybody, welcome to Methods of Modern Finance. I'm super excited for today's session. Today's session, we have a special guest from the SBA. We have John, who is basically my go-to. When anybody I have a question about any of the COVID relief, I go to John and ask him because he just is the guru, I guess, if you want to say. Super excited to have him as our guest here to go over what COVID relief is available for small businesses. Now, right now, there's some changes that have happened very recently for small businesses by the SBA. Super excited to talk to him about that. If you have any questions, please put those down in the chat, and I'll make sure that those get asked. If you are at any of the other centers that are broadcasting this, please get those to your center lead so that they can send those through to me, and we'll make sure that those questions get asked. I want to say a special thank you for our funding. We have a cooperative agreement with the U.S. Small Business Administration for our funding here, and we're super excited to have them as our funding partner and to be connected with them. So super excited. I'm going to actually turn the time over to John and let him get started here, and then as questions come up, I'm going to go ahead and ask him those questions. So John, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Megan. Yes, as Megan said, I'm John Gigi. I'm the Deputy District Director here in the Utah District Office of SBA. And after Megan comes to me with a question, I go to a couple of my staff members that know more than I do. And then I get the answer and get it back to her. But anyway, after I've been here over 30 years, and I have to say I haven't seen a year like last year in all those years, and I'm sure it's all been difficult for everybody out there too. So want to cover a few things today and hopefully get you some information that will help you as you're working with your small businesses and trying to navigate these difficult times. So anyway, I'm going to try to share my screen here. Okay. Is that showing up okay, Megan?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, great. So this is a Small Business Administration, and I just wanted to touch on, some recent legislation which has brought us here to these programs that I'm going to discuss today. First, many of you have heard of the CARES Act, which was passed back in March 2020, which developed some new programs for us. Then came the Economic Aid to Hard-Hit Small Businesses Act in December of 2021, which further helped us out in providing programs and services for small businesses. And then most recently, the president submitted his plan for the American Rescue Plan Act. That was recently passed by the House. And I believe that the Senate is supposed to bring it up for vote Friday, but we'll see, and that will give us some further things, and I might touch upon a couple of those things as I go through the presentation. But anyway, these are some of the programs and services I want to touch upon that are available to all of you as you're dealing with the pandemic. The first one, a lot of you may have heard of the Paycheck Protection Program, or the PPP, our Economic Injury Disaster Loans, or EIDLs. We now have our targeted EIDL advances. I'll hit briefly upon our shuttered venue operator grants. We're also making subsidy payments on existing SBA loans for existing borrowers so that they don't have to make those payments. There have been some enhancements to our regular loan programs, which are still out there and going strong, our 7A and 504 loan programs. Of course, we have our entrepreneurial assistance, our small business development centers. Megan, of course, operates our Blanding SBDC and is available for everyone. And there's an expansive network throughout the state there. Our women's business centers, our SCORE volunteers. This support our restaurants, that's something that would be a new program if this new bill passes the Senate, which would help restaurants, fast food industry, food carts, and others. But that hasn't passed yet, but we're hoping that will, because we know that's a hard-hit industry that needs help. Just really quickly, under the Economic Aid Act, which was passed in December, we got about $325 billion more dollars. 285 of that will go to our PPP loan programs, which is now open again through March 31st. We got 15 billion for that shuttered venue operator grant program I mentioned, 20 billion for the targeted idle advances, and then some other small amounts for some of the other programs. So let me talk about the PPP loans first. Just some overarching points on that program. Of course, these are loans made through our participant lenders, banks and credit unions. So you go to them to apply for these loans. SBA guarantees 100% of these loans. As I mentioned, the deadline for these loans right now is March 31st of this year. We're hoping that gets extended under the new act, which would also provide a little bit more additional funding for this program. The covered period for that is borrowers can elect any period from 8 to 24 weeks from the time they get the loan to spend those monies. Under the Economic Aid Act, it allows now for second PPP loans for entities that receive first round PPP loans. It also allows, in limited circumstances, to go back and increase your first PPP loan if you got one. There's a simplified application process for loans up to 150,000. And of course, the great benefit of this PPP program is the forgiveness benefits. So you do not need to repay the loan if you use the loan proceeds in the right way for eligible expenses. And then there's a simplified forgiveness form now for loans up to 150,000. So who can get these first and second draw PPP loans? I have to be a small business, which means 500 or fewer employees if you're going for a first loan, or 300 or fewer employees if you're going for the second. All types of entities can get these partnerships, LLCs, corporations. We can also make these loans to sole proprietors, independent contractors, and self-employed individuals, which I know are a lot of small businesses fall into these categories. We can make them to tribal businesses, which I know you have down in that area. Agricultural businesses, ranchers and farmers can get these loans. Different kinds of nonprofit entities can now get these, 501c3s, 6s, and 19s. If the new act passes, it will extend to all nonprofits. You can also see some of the other types of nonprofits that are eligible there. One of the other eligibility points for this is the entity must have been in operation on or before February 15, 2020, which I know is concerning for some businesses that recently started. We're hoping that might get changed at some point, but for right now, that's still in place.
That would definitely help a lot of businesses in our area. I'm getting a couple of questions coming through on different platforms that how do we know how much money we can get through PPP? Is there a way to calculate that? Is there a way for business owners to go and kind of figure that out before they go and apply?
Yeah, let me touch upon that. I'll go, let's see. Well, so for first draw loans, you can get an amount up to $10 million. And the way it's calculated is you figure out your average monthly payroll costs over a 12-month period and multiply that by 2.5. So you get 2.5 months worth of your monthly payroll. Okay. And of course, the maturity on that's 5 years. The interest rate's 1%. You don't have to make any payments until you've obtained your loan forgiveness, or 10 months, whichever is earliest. So you don't have to make any payments on that for a while. And then on the second draw loans, you can get up to 2 million. Again, it's calculated on 2.5 months of average monthly payroll costs over 12 months. But note that in businesses that are in the accommodations and food services industry, hotels, restaurants, and other things, they get 3.5 months payroll under that. Does that kind of, now there's special ways to calculate for farmers, ranchers, self-employed, and using your schedules. And if people do need help calculating what their loan amount would be, I suggest you go to your SBDC like Megan, and they can help you with those kind of calculations. There are some special there's been some guidance for various situations, partnerships, corporations, tells you how to walk through all of those. Okay. Does that answer that enough, Megan, you think?
Yeah, I got another question come in. It says, what if you starting and you didn't earn any money in 2019? So you're a sole proprietor and you declared a negative amount. Do you still qualify for a PPP in 2019?
Were they in operation on February 15th, 2020? That's one key thing. They had to be in operation by then.
So yes, they were.
Yes. So I'm not exactly sure on that. I think it would be tough to get one in that case. But again, reach out to us. We can have a specialist kind of go through that with them to see if in their particular circumstances they can get one.
And the best way to go through a specialist would probably come to like one of the SBDC centers and have them kind of reach out and link up with a specialist.
Yeah, and remember, the loan amount is not based on how much money you made or lost. It's based on what your payroll expenses were. So if you're
this is a sole. I know who this is. This is a sole proprietor, and so when they brought their Schedule C in, they didn't declare any profits in 2019, and so they were told that they didn't qualify by the bank. And
so SBA recently came out with some guidance that now for those sole proprietorships on your Schedule C, instead of using line 34, which is your profit or loss, you can use line 7. So you use line 7 on your Schedule C, and then you'll be able to qualify for something better. Okay, that's very recent.
Very cool.
Okay. All right. So we went through who's eligible for these. Here's some new recent categories of entities that are eligible: local newspapers, television, radio stations, destination marketing organizations that help attract tourism industries to your local areas. Okay. Certain types of businesses aren't eligible. I mean, the categories are minimal. A lot of you probably won't fall into some of these areas, but you can see some of them: developers and landlords, life insurance companies, pyramid plans, those kinds of things. Small businesses engaged in illegal activity, of course. Small businesses whose 20% plus owners have certain legal issues, are on probation, parole, or other things that might make them ineligible, depends. Small businesses or owners that have currently defaulted federal loans. Now they've accepted student loans in this case just recently. Then the next one's important: entities who receive shuttered venue grant if applying for loan after December 27th. So be careful if you're going for the shuttered venue grant. Do not apply for a PPP loan because it will make you ineligible for. So that's a determination you're going to have to make. I don't know how many entities or people out there we have today that are interested in that venue grant or would be eligible for that. But if you think you are, consult your SBDC people before you apply for a PPP or shuttered venue grant. Okay.
Real quick on that, if they were turned down in the past because of the student loans, can they reapply, or will they be reached out to by the SBA on that?
They should apply.
They should reapply. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So the use of loan proceeds for PPP loans, they can be used for payroll costs, salaries, leave, group insurance payments now, mortgage interest payments, rent, utilities, interest on pre-existing debts. If you want to refinance an EIDL loan. There's some recently added categories that weren't around when this program first came out, and that's operations expenditures. You can see some examples of that. Property damage.
Does marketing fall under operating expenditures?
I don't believe it does. I mean, it's kind of related to these cloud computing and software type of things, like payroll software, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Property damage costs due to public disturbances or the riots that have happened over the last year. Supplier costs, worker protection expenditures and adaptive measures. So if you want to put a drive-through window in your restaurant, if you want to put up protective barriers, those kinds of things. Now, this last point is key. You must use at least 60% for payroll costs if you want to receive full forgiveness. Okay, if you don't use at least 60%, so you'll end up repaying some amounts of your loan. Okay, so the terms, we talked about that already, up to 10 million in the formula, 2.5 months of average payroll costs. Okay. For second draw loans, we've talked about that too. It's fairly similar. Again, 5 years, 1% interest rate. For seasonal employers, you may use any 12-week period from February 15th, 2019 to the same date in 2020. Okay. Okay, additional requirements on second draw loan terms. Okay, so if you've already gotten a first draw PPP loan and you're going for a second one, the requirements are you would have had to have been eligible for and previously received that first PPP loan. You have to have used the full loan amount on eligible expenses on your first loan before the second loan is dispersed to you. The number of employees you can have is 300 instead of the 500 on the first round. And you have to be able to demonstrate at least a 25% reduction in gross receipts between the same quarters in 2019 and 2020. And you can pick whichever one, the first, second, third, fourth quarter, whatever will help you get to that 25% reduction. There's some other special rules for that if you weren't in business for the full year of 2019. Okay. And under the new act, you can also get an increase to your first PPP loan if you're a partnership, seasonal employer, farmer, and rancher, and would have gotten more under the new loan amount calculations that are now available under the new act. If you fully repaid your first PPP loan, okay, before you got the forgiveness, or you partially repaid that loan, or you didn't accept the full amount of your first draw PPP loan. So these are the limited instances where you can go in and ask your lender to increase that first loan. And that's available right now. Of course, we're waiving a lot of things on these PPP loans that we have on our normal 7A loans. There's no borrower guarantee fee, which is good for you guys. There's no credit elsewhere requirement that's normally required. There's no collateral and personal guarantees required, and there's no prepayment penalties on these. So how do you apply for these PPP loans? First, you find a PPP lender to go to. And I've listed some ways you can find who's involved in our PPP lending programs. Again, look there, it says contact your SBA resource partner. Okay, so Megan and her colleagues are again a good resource for finding a place to apply. Then you need to complete the application. So there's the application forms for these loans. You have to gather your payroll documentation. You need to gather revenue loss documentation if you're going for a second loan. And then again, contact your SBA resource partners like our SBDCs. They can help you through these application processes, and so can your lender too, probably. Then the lender submits your application to the SBA electronically, goes through some verification checks and other things, and then SBA will issue a loan number if everything's good to go, and you'll get your money within 10 days. Now, I mentioned that the great thing about this program is the forgiveness aspect, where you won't have to repay it back. Again, you have a covered period from 8 weeks to 24 weeks. You get to choose how long you want to use those funds within that time frame. The amount that's forgiven is the amount equal to what you spend on eligible expenses that I listed before. Again, payroll costs must be at least 60% if you want to get full forgiveness. Idle advances, which I'll talk about later, are no longer deducted from the amount you get in your forgiveness like they were earlier. I know that caused a lot of heartache for people. And if that happened to you on your first PPP loan, SBA will be reaching back out to give you back those funds that were deducted for those idle advances. Okay. The process is that you would submit your forgiveness application and the documents that support that request to your lender. Again, there's a simplified process for loans up to $150,000. And the lender has 60 days to issue a decision on your forgiveness request. Okay, shuttered venue operator grants. I don't know if that'll affect too many of you there. Basically, this is for live venue operators, theater producers, performing arts operators, those kind of businesses, museums, motion picture theaters. I guess you probably have some museums down in that area, I think, too.
We've got about 3 that would qualify for this as of right now that I know of. Okay,
good. Motion picture theaters and then talent representatives. So you would have had to have been fully operational in February of 2020. Again, on this program, you have to show a revenue loss of at least 25% from one quarter in 2020 as compared to the same quarter in 2019. Again, if you think you're eligible for this grant, do not apply for a PPP loan yet. Talk to your SBDC representative or contact us at SBA as you're trying to work through that and see what the advantages and disadvantages are between the two programs. From what we found, it looks like you can probably qualify for more under the shuttered venue grant program. But again, it's an analysis you'll have to make. In the first 60 days of the program, $2 billion are set aside for businesses with no more than 50 employees. Okay, and I show you there how the number of employees is calculated specifically for this program. And this program has not rolled out yet. I mean, we have a lot of the rules and some frequently asked questions on them, but the process has not been developed. It'll be handled again through our Office of Disaster Assistance here in SBA directly. This is a grant program from SBA directly, and you will be applying to us. This just gives a little more detail as to how you would qualify in each of these different categories that I just mentioned. So there's specific requirements. I'm not going to go through all of these line by line. Okay, so the amount of these grants is up to $10 million, and then you can get a second grant for 50% of the amount that you got for the first grant. So here's how you calculate how much you would get if you're in operation at the beginning of 2019. It's 45% of your gross earned revenue during 2019. If you started after January of 2019, then you calculate your monthly gross earned revenues for the time that you were in operation at 2019 and multiply it by 6. Now this program will be rolled out in stages. In the first 14 days, grants will be available only to entities that had a 90% plus revenue loss. Then the next 14 days for entities that had a 70% plus loss. And then after that, it'll be open to everybody who suffered more than 25% loss. Okay. The grant proceeds can be used for a lot of different things, kind of a lot of the same things as the PPP program. You cannot use it to purchase real estate or for relending or politics. Okay. Few things that you need to keep in mind as you get we start to prepare this program. You can be registering for a DUNS number. You have to have that. Then you need to go into our system for award management, our SAM system, and be registered in that before you can apply for these grants. We like to tell people to beware of scams that want to charge you to help you register in these systems. It's free. Again, Megan and her colleagues can help you with this kind of stuff. Then be gathering your documentation for the number of employees and your monthly revenues, and be looking at what your revenue loss was between 2019 and 2020. And keep your eyes open for when we do open up the application process for this grant program.
So I got a question and I'm not sure what they mean fully. It says, why do some have to go through a bank and not all go through the SBA? And I'm not sure what they're referring to.
Okay, the first program I talked about was our PPP loan program. It's similar to our regular 7A loan guaranteed loan program. So these loans are always made by banks and credit unions, lenders, and we guarantee them. So those types of loans have always been made by banks and lenders. And of course, this PPP program is too. It's always been a way for Congress to keep the subsidy, the appropriations amounts for SBA lower. So it's lenders loaning their money, not the taxpayers' dollars. And that's why they've always set those programs up that way. And then we don't have to come in unless there's some kind of loss. So the Shutter Venue Grant Program it's a grant program, and it is administered straight through SBA, as is this Economic Injury Disaster Loan and Grant Program. That's also administered by SBA. Both programs are through our Office of Disaster Assistance. Okay.
Awesome.
And we do have funds appropriated for that. So these EIDL loans, there it is right there, made directly by SBA, not through private lenders. Eligibility, again, they have to be a small business under our standards. Private nonprofits and agricultural co-ops are eligible. They have to be in the declared disaster area, which is the whole United States for the COVID disaster. So everyone qualifies there. And there's a couple other eligibility requirements. These loans can go up to $2 million. The interest rate's 3.75% for most small businesses. And these loans can go up to 30 years. It's determined on a case-by-case basis for each loan. Probably won't be 30 years in most cases, but can go up to that long if you qualify. And there's a complete payment deferment for the first year, so you don't have to make any payments for that 12 months. The proceeds can be used for all of these things: fixed debts, payroll, other bills that can't be paid because of the disaster. There are more loan requirements for this than the PPP program. You do have to show that there's no credit elsewhere on reasonable terms and conditions. You must have an acceptable credit history. You have to be able to show that through reasonable projections you can repay the loan. And then if it's over $25,000, you have to offer up security to secure that loan. Now, also kind of tied to this program is our targeted EIDL advances. In the first go round, there was just emergency advances. This is a little different. This is targeted towards low income communities. So you have to be located in a low income community to get that EIDL targeted advance. At the bottom here, I have listed a link to the mapping tool that SBA is using to determine if you're in a low income community. And Megan, I don't know if you've checked that out to see if those areas around there qualify for a lot, but.
I know San Juan County qualifies. I don't think Moab qualifies. The SBDC and Moab would have to give you more details. And I believe Price qualifies. So for those that are kind of crossed, that are watching, that's kind of, I know San Juan County all qualifies for that.
Okay, good. So anyway, you have to be in that low income community. And if you are, you're eligible for a full $10,000 advance. if you're in a low-income community and you previously received an emergency advance under the first go-round and didn't get the full 10,000, you are eligible to get the remainder to make up the difference. Now, you do have to show that you've suffered a greater than 30% reduction in an 8-week period beginning on March 2nd, 2020 or later, relative to a comparable 8-week period during 2019 or early 2020. You also have to not have more than 300 employees. Okay. So again, these advance amounts will be subtracted from your EIDL loan amount if you applied for the loan also. The grant will not be reduced from the forgiveness amount you get on the PPP side. Okay. So it's important to note that no action is required for you to seek this targeted EIDL advance. SBA will be actively identifying those who are eligible for that and reaching out to let you know that you're eligible and how you would apply for that. Okay.
And because I'm getting this question all the time, just to clarify, for those that on the first round didn't get the full 10,000, the SBA will be reaching out to them to make those adjustments. Is that correct? For those that are in those the low income zones. Did we lose you? I think we lost him. We're going to give him a couple minutes, see if we can reconnect. But for those that that on the first go around on the grant, you didn't get the full 10,000 in San Juan County or other eligible areas that are watching this, the SBA will be reaching out to you. So check your email, answer your phone calls from those foreign, I shouldn't say foreign numbers, but if you're like me, I don't answer numbers that I don't know. And so I just send them to a voicemail. And if they don't leave a message, I don't worry about them. Answer those numbers. If you didn't get your full 10,000, that's how they're going to reach out to you. So either phone call or email, check your spam folders, all of that stuff. Make sure that we get that taken care of, and we are able to take that care of that for you. Not sure why we lost him. That's too bad. Anyway, I am fielding questions as they come in. We're on Facebook Live as well. And so if you see me typing, that's what I'm doing. And been able to do a bunch of that. If you are have any questions, go ahead and bring them in. We're going to give them a couple more minutes to come back. See if we can get them to come back. And we'll go from there. As questions come in, we'll kind of go over those. If you want to go ahead and send some questions in. For those that are in the San Juan County area and don't know where the SBDC is, we are in Blanding. My office is at 238 North 100 East in Blanding. And I do both in-person meetings as well as, of course, COVID restricted, we have face masks and all that. But we also do Zoom meetings. So if you're not within the Blanding region, I know my county is quite large, we can do a Zoom meeting and be able to get your questions answered and cover all of that stuff. So let's go ahead and get all those questions answered. If you're in Moab, the Moab office, I know that she is on some different restrictions. And so she is doing all of her meetings from Zoom, and then Price is as well as doing all their meetings from Zoom. So each office is a little bit different. And so just reach out to your local office by email or however that is, by phone number as well. If they are working at home, then their office phone is forwarded to their home cell phone or whatever they're working from. So make sure you go ahead and reach out to them. Looks like we've got John back.
Yeah,
oh,
I don't
wonderful.
know what happened. I have my internet connection.
Happens. I'm glad that you were able to get back on so quickly.
Yeah. You want to enable my screen sharing again?
You bet. There you go.
I think we're back where we left off, right?
We are.
Okay. All right, so that's the targeted EIDL advances. And, there's some existing enhancements to our 7A and 504 programs. Like we've increased our guarantee fee percentage on the 7A loans to 90% for a while, and no guarantee fees. 504 loans, we've reduced some fees. Our microloan programs, for example, through Utah Micro Enterprise Loan Fund, they've got some more advantages now that help you qualify for these traditional loan programs that we have. Subsidy payments for existing SBA loans. So if you're an existing borrower, if you have an existing 7A or 504 loan, make sure that, and it's current, it's got to be current with the SBA, just make sure SBA is making those payments for you for a certain period of time. And that makes it so you don't have to make those payments. Check with your lenders or your certified development companies if you have one of those loans. Okay.
So John, I have a question come in and it says, what's the difference between doing these loans on your own? Does it help with our chances of getting a loan? Do we need more information on that?
Yeah, I don't know what they mean by doing it on their own, but
I'm not sure either. So I will, for the person that asked that question, can we get a little more context behind that? That
okay.
one, and I'll when I get that context, I'll let you know.
All right, we'll try to help get that answered.
Oh, it says if we do it on our own or if we have the SBA help. So I'm going to guess the difference between getting an independent loan versus an SBA 503 or it's not 7. I'm losing my mind. A 7A or 503.
Okay. So that there are certain advantages to our loan programs, like longer maturities, lower interest rates in some cases. However, I mean, to qualify for like a normal 7A loan, you have to show that you don't have credit available to you otherwise on reasonable terms and conditions. So you almost have to be able to show that a bank wouldn't make you a normal conventional loan on the same terms that you would get under the SBA. So what you do, I mean, basically you go to your lender and say, look, I'm interested in an SBA guaranteed loan. And they'll let you know whether it's best to go SBA or whether you qualify for a conventional loan. Does that make sense? Hopefully.
It does.
Okay.
Another question that I've got coming across, what's the difference between a preferred SBA lender and just an SBA lender?
So a preferred lender can do things more in-house rather than having to go through our centralized processing facility, so they can get things done faster throughout the loan process, so you can get your money quicker. Okay.
Very cool.
So I heard Megan, she was just talking about, you know, the SBDC centers. There's the website. I did put Megan's contact information in there. I'm sure she's given it to you too. And through that website, you can get contacts to Moab, Price, and the other centers around. We do have our 2 women's business centers. One's in Salt Lake, and then last year we opened one in Cedar City. And they help women-owned businesses, and they offer the same free counseling and low-cost training that the SBDCs do. Sometimes it's good to go to both, get a little help, and they work together too, in helping you, getting you the best resources you need. Here's some contacts: our Utah district office, our phone number, and our email address. So if you have some specific questions for us. Here's some contact information for the Office of Disaster Assistance that handles that EIDL loan program and who will handle the Shuttered Venue Grant Program. We do have a rapid response team that we sent up in conjunction with the World Trade Center, Utah. And they have people available to answer calls and get you to the proper resources. And that's their URL link. Here's some general SBA websites that have information on the various programs that I've discussed today. Here's a list of our staff members. We have 10 staff members here in our Utah district office. Our lender relations specialist, Carl Wernick and Don McMillan, they're very good in helping with some good questions, especially if you're having any problems with your lenders, or your lenders are having problems getting your applications through the portals, or getting error codes, or there's difficulties. I would recommend reaching out to Carl and Don on those kinds of issues. We do have a new employee, Jackie Hobson, in St. George. We just opened an office there. So she's entrusted with helping small businesses in southern Utah, not just the southwest side, but the southeast side as well. So she'll be a good resource there too. And I think that's it.
We'll also have Cody on next week for this same series, talking about business opportunities and government contracts and not government contracts, A8 certifications, which we have a lot of businesses that would qualify for that here in this area. And then the following week after that, we'll have PTAC talking about government contracts in relation to A8s and things like that. So we're super excited for our lineup for this coming month. And we really appreciate the SBA and all their help and their willingness to take time out of their extremely busy schedule, especially right now during COVID, to do these workshops for us and help answer these questions, because we know there's so many questions out there. I want to do one more call out for any questions before we let John go. Is there anything else, John, that you want to add or contribute real quick while we have people sending in their last little bit of questions?
I know it's a lot of information, and we've got these various programs. Please don't hesitate to reach out to your lenders, to the small business development centers. If you have questions or need some help, we're all here as resources. We know it's difficult to wade through some of this stuff, but reach out to us and we'll help you.
Definitely. I tell you what, if I don't know if I have a question that I don't know, then I've always reached out to the SBA office here in Utah, and they have gotten back to me within either sometimes minutes, but within the same day. And it has been absolutely incredible. They're incredible resources. And we're so lucky to have such a quick office that knows the information, but is able to get back to us so quickly, because not every state has that ability. And so we're so grateful for that. We thank you, John, for taking the time out of your schedule and joining us today. It was super helpful. I'm getting a lot of response both on the live feeds and the different broadcasts on how helpful this information was in helping these businesses. So we really appreciate that. And we hope to have you back soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you. You have a wonderful day. Thanks for joining us.
You too. Good luck, everyone.
Perfect. If you guys are watching the replay on this and not the live broadcast, feel free to leave your messages in the comments. I do follow through those on a daily basis. Oh, I've got another question that came in real quick. If a company has applied for an EIDL loan, this is a separate application for a targeted advance loan, or is there a separate application for a targeted advance loan?
No, like I indicated before, SBA is being proactive in reaching out to those who will be eligible. So they will be, I think, emailing these eligible businesses that are low-income communities. They'll identify first all those who didn't get the full advance the first time. Then they'll identify those who have applied for the loan but didn't get the advance because the funding ran out. So that's kind of a two-stage approach they'll be taking. But there is no application portal open for you to just go to. You'll have to hear from them. They'll tell you where to go. Very cool.
Very cool. Yeah, SBA is being very proactive in reaching out to businesses, which is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Very cool. So I think that's it. So if you're watching the replay, please put your comments and questions in the comments. I go through those every day, and I will answer those questions. And if I don't know the answer, then I reach out to John and the SBA office here in Utah to get those questions answered, and we'll direct you in those proper ways. If you want to reach out to the SBDCs, go to utahsbdc.org and look at locations, and it will link you up with all the different locations in which you can get help with. We thank you for joining us today, and you have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you.